And listen, we are waiting. Literally any moment it could happen. It could go as late as till midnight tonight, but we're tracking the Supreme Court this evening as justices are going to weigh in at some point before the end of the day on the legality of the abortion pill mifepristone. The court previously issued an order allowing the abortion pill to remain available by mail delivery and without any tighter restrictions until at least midnight tonight, as they consider whether to maintain the hold from the lower court. And meanwhile, of course, the left continues to perpetuate lies regarding the abortion pill, most notably regarding its safety.
Imagine for a moment if a judge was poised to strike down access to another safe and effective drug routinely used as part of medical care, like Tylenol or Advil.
All right, I wanted you to see it yourself. That was Massachusetts Representative Ayanna Pressley comparing these dangerous abortion pills that kill babies to something that you would take for a headache. Well, with me now to discuss the many myths that the left is putting forward about these pills is Chris Gacek. He's the newly minted, I might say, Senior Fellow for Regulatory Affairs here at the Family Research Council. Chris, thank you so much for joining me on Washington Watch. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be with you again, Jody.
Well, listen, first of all, congratulations on your new role at FRC.
Thank you very much.
We're proud of you.
It's much appreciated.
All right, let's dive right into some of the myths that the left continues to put forward about these abortion pills. There was a Washington Stand article on this topic, in fact, written by our colleague Mary Zock, who will be joining me here a little bit later. But let's start with the first myth that the majority of women who take chemical abortion drugs do not experience serious complications.
Well, this is a problem because over the years we've had a long track record with mifepristone abortions, and pro-life doctors have gathered up through the Freedom of Information Act request something like 4,000 adverse event reports that have been filed with the FDA. So the way I think about this is that what do those reports show? And it's a pretty stark tale. Now, let me just make one point that just getting some adverse event reports don't tell you like how many people have taken the drug and what percentage have that adverse event. But the New York Times itself, in a big story it published, it was basically on the 1st of April, just a few weeks ago, admitted that 3 to 5% of women have complications either from an incomplete abortion or retained products of conception, meaning that the baby parts of the baby is still retained in the uterus. So if you think about it that way, that's 1 in 20 to something like 1 in 30, or 1 in 33 of all the patients are having some kind of adverse event to the point that they would need a second procedure. And that is by definition considered to be a serious adverse event. So this is a vastly, let's say, the risks of this drug are very much undersold to women who are trying to get the drug. And when you see the types of adverse events that happen, there's a lot of, a lot of bleeding, and you see cases of transfusions and retained products of conception and the need for ongoing pregnancies. Essentially the drugs are inducing a miscarriage. And so that's a very complicated process. As many of the viewers here will know, that it's just a process that is not something that you can treat like taking a Tylenol, right?
Well, and so I think even to use the word myth in this case is not even accurate. It's an outright lie that this is a safe medication when you have the numbers that you just gave us of serious complications. Emergency room visits are not at all uncommon with this. All right, let's go on. What's another myth that the left continues pushing with these chemical abortion drugs?
Well, I think one of the myths that I think is important is that the products themselves are available and can be sold readily through the mail. And so this is a kind of an interesting development that occurred in about and safely sent through the mail and legally sent through the mail. And this is what's sort of one of the things that's arisen in the case here, is that and I think it's one of the areas where they're in the biggest trouble, the other side is, because the Comstock Act of 1873 actually forbids the mailing of these abortion drugs that can produce abortion in the mail. And so in the COVID year, and the FDA took and a federal judge sort of conspired to concoct a new regimen or a new regulatory environment for the drug that allowed it to be sold through the mail as part of the distribution system. And it's clearly at loggerheads with the law itself. And this is going to be one of the interesting features of the of the decision that comes down by the Supreme Court either tonight or later if they delay it a little more. But I mean, there were sort of two parts of this decision. It's just worth noting is that there was this one part about the Comstock Act and this mailing issue, which has arisen only recently. And then there was a whole part about the underlying approval itself, which doctors had challenged as early as 2002. So just make sure that people understand, this challenge did not come about after the Dobbs decision. This isn't something that's just been flung upon the court in the last few months. This has been going on for 2 decades. And in fact, there was one period of 14 years where the FDA refused to answer a petition or a complaint against the approval. It was over 6,000 days, and the judge in the trial court in Texas noted this as part of the irregularity and part of the problems that had happened in allowing this. Why are we considering this now? Is what he said. We're considering it now because the FDA has played all these regulatory games and has delayed and he used the term stonewalled. So there was a lot of opprobrium on his part with regard to the behavior of the FDA.
Well, one of the other things that I have heard along these lines is that the gestational age at which a woman can actually take these chemical abortions, that it doesn't matter. And from everything that I've read and seen about it, most certainly matters.
It's absolutely untrue. You're absolutely correct. It does matter. So the further along you go, the higher the rate of failed abortion, right? So if you take it at, let's say, 5 weeks of gestational age or 6 weeks, then it's quite different than 10 weeks or 12 weeks. And some of these people it's hard to date pregnancies, right? So the longer the pregnancy goes, the more ineffective the drug regimen becomes. That means that there's a greater chance of having to have one of these surgical procedures or, all of that sort of follow-up.
Well, Chris, listen, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. Again, congratulations on your new role at FRC. We're proud of you.